But I came across this story on MLB Savant last night where they were doing their defensive zip projections on the year. They did their top 10, and then they did like the honorable mentions. I wasn't expecting to see the Phillies in the top 10, but it was nice to see them up at 13th. And as the article says, 13th might not sound impressive, but it is. It's a continuation of their improvement from late last season and would be a step up after they finished 23rd and 25th over the last 2 years. The A's 29th and Angels 30th bring up the rear, at least by our projections, which might be good news for either of the AL West clubs. So they have the Phillies, I mean, taking a very big jump, and I almost think that's potentially underrated some. If Bryce Harper steps in seamlessly here, I mean, he's a tremendous upgrade over Reese. Stott has emerged as the guy. Turner, I can't imagine, gets worse.
Yeah.
Bohm has been improving. JT's a stud. Brandon Marsh now in left field over Kyle Schwarber is a huge upgrade. Johan Rojas in center field is a pretty big upgrade over Marsh. And then at right field, Castellanos was the only right fielder in baseball without an error last year. I kind of say that tongue in cheek, but they're going to be a pretty good defensive team, and that's a major overhaul from last year. It's pretty exciting.
Yeah. And as you talk about Nick Castellanos,
and Chris says Wheels and Ranger could also be Gold Glove pitchers as well.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And you're right. Yeah, Jeff, Christopher, you're right about that. That's the exciting part, is that there are, and I know the club has said it so many times, these guys will be better, they'll be better. But there's truth to that, because there were areas last year that were very manageable to fix. And you can easily see where the adjustments can be made and should be made this season.
And I think this is like an immediate thing.
It
too.
is.
It's not
It's not like you have to wait for.
Yeah, like I think they're just going to come out of the gate as a much better defensive
And that's
team.
something that when you read everybody from Jeff Hoffman to Trea Turner to Aaron Nola, a lot of the similar things that they've said are exactly that. There are things they progressed on as the season went on last year that they can now continue to do, whether it's the pitch clock for Aaron Nola, Trea Turner with his errors, of course, but also the at-bats, and then Jeff Hoffman and just being in the moment, Bryce Harper being in the phone booth, whatever it is, they all kind of have a sense of what mentally it's going to take to start that way. But for Nick Castellanos, it was talking about how there are 10 clubs that they listed, how they can turn their weaknesses into strengths. And for the Phillies, what was mentioned was specifically right field. Nick Castellanos. Now, last year, Nick Castellanos, the numbers that he had, along with his 29 home runs and 106 RBIs, had a 311 on-base percentage, a 109 WRC plus, and also a 1 WAR. They're projecting that this season, although he is now going to be 32, might not be steps up, but they are expecting a 100 WRC plus and a 0.5 WAR, and saying that last year, because of that July stretch that he had of the terrible numbers, 162, 29 WRC plus, just his worst month in his career overall.
Maybe he wasn't going to psychedelic art exhibits.
He must not have been at the art exhibit yet. That this year he should be able to hopefully avoid that slump, because he is a very streaky player, and hopefully avoid that July slump that he had. So as we're talking about some adjustments that are manageable, one of them is if Nick Castellanos didn't have any errors last year, still had a slump and a lot of ups and downs in his streaks, if he can just level out a little bit and not have that slump of what July was, is an area that can easily be turned from a weakness into a strength for the Phillies. So lots of things that, as we talk about, are manageable, that we should see from the start of the season. And that's, you got to be excited about.